I talked to them, their plan for the public works building is what they call wet proofing, is building it so that the river can come in, go back out, and save everything in the meantime, whether you have lifts to raise it up or platforms to raise it up and put it on. So the annex building, they seem to think they can keep the water out of the basement, the boiler room, and the bread shop.
What's that done? Dominic?
From experience, yeah, you should hire a consultant. When somebody asks what's the life of a cast iron boiler segmental, there are boilers in New York City that are 100 years old that are segmental boilers. So it's not segmental boilers that's the problem. The problem is it's modern day castings. The last building I worked on had 2 cast iron segmental boilers, and they're both 7 segments. In a year and a half, I probably replaced 12 of the 14 segments, and you've got to keep coming back in, keep pulling a segment back out, put another segment back in. Segmental boilers is not the direction I would go in if I was going that way. And so the question is, can you get a one-piece boiler, 2 boilers, 1 piece, into that building without doing the segmental boiler? So I can't answer it, and so I think you probably need a consultant to figure it out. But I would be very leery about putting, from my prior experience, segmental boilers in. And they're commonly,
No, and that's what's in there now, but
they're commonly used.
The premise is if one of the segments go bad, you can replace it. Whereas with the other, you
Yeah,
can't.
you ever tried, even on the 7-segment boiler, you know, that section weighed, I think, 1,100, 1,200 pounds. So you put a lift in it that bridges the boiler to pull it out. You have to expand it, pull it out, put another one back in with the gaskets. So, huh? I've been down that road, a year and a half, on the same building.
So bottom line
Yeah,
is.
but the thing is, you're trying to save money by fixing a segment. What you've done is you've protracted it for a year and a half, and you just created a major problem for a 4-story building that, you know, in fact, was a medical building. You know, so.
Brian?
Is any of this damage due to the flooding over the past 2 times? Can we contribute to that so we can get some money back on that?
I would have to assume that it is, whether, I don't think it can be proven that it was.
I mean, but it was submerged twice, and was it on there it was submerged? Or was it rain when it was submerged?
I don't think either time it was, but just being exposed to that water, from what I've seen that water do to the other.
Hopefully it's security. Major repairs.
So Paul, the boiler that you're proposing for the 2 boilers for 175,000, they're not segmented boilers?
No, I would assume they're similar to the boilers that we put into this building and the old courthouse.
How do you get them in this building, in the annex building? You got doors big enough to get them in?
We just did it a few years ago.
Yeah, this building, they went in the.
Yeah, they went down to the basement,
doors,
true.
Right, that building, I have to assume that those double doors on the parking lot side are going to be big enough.
And you still you don't have an idea of what it would cost to fix it?
I mean, I've got a rough idea, but like they said, they're not gonna commit till they get them into their shop and they get them, because as they start heating these things up, are they gonna find more cracks that they can't see when they're just sitting on the floor in the boiler room with a flashlight, you know, as they get it in the shop. You get them heated up, you start repairing the cracks.
It's almost September, you know.
Well, that's
Running out of time, though.
That's another,
Well, what do you think we should do?
Get them fixed. Repair. Pull it apart. Repair. They find something that you weren't expecting when you get in there and then come back.
We did have some consultant, we never got it done.
We want to have them repaired, see what happens? Larry?
I'd say just make a form time, I spoke to guys at the Mets, I had the right idea a few years back. I think eventually, with all these floods coming through here, you know, you got a new building maybe the way to go. I mean, you got this building here to house the social services and some certain, and the new legislature and the clerk and all that sort of stuff and move the public works and the, you're talking about a lot of money there, obviously, where money's not available, so I guess in the meantime, you have to fix what you have, I guess that's about the bottom line.
Right.
If you want to borrow a lot of money.
I think that's the consensus. What you can do to fix them. See what happens. If you come up against something, come back next month. Or at the full board meeting.
Right?
You'll need to do it so.
I'll forward my phones to,
Not to my office.
Once they take it apart.
but Robin has my cell phone.
If they find it, it's more expensive than the rest of it, you're not gonna put that back in.
That's gonna be useful.
All right?
And we're running with repair.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul. Next item on the discussion item is solid waste. Okay. All right, we can do this. All right, maybe what we'll do is do the resolutions next. There's only 3 other resolutions, and then we'll do the solid waste. I think we'd like to go into executive session for that solid waste discussion. So I'll go to the next resolution. Resolution awarding bid for roof replacement project. I'll sponsor that. Do we have a second? Ron? Discussion? Bid openings aren't going to be until Thursday of this week, so there's no, we don't know who's going to be awarded the bid or the price. We'll have that for the 4th. Wish to the committee? All in favor? Next resolution is approving options for purchases of lands for rights of way, the FJ&G Rail to Trails project. I'll sponsor that. Do we have a second? Butch? Discussion? Move it. All in favor? Okay. Next resolution, authorizing execution of 2012 Transportation Community and System Preservation Grant to the Federal Highway Administration for the proposed Bonnet Connector feasibility and preliminary design report. I'll sponsor that. Do you have a second? John? Discussion?
Discussion.
Go ahead.
Well, just for the heck of it today, I took a ride up Switzer Hill Road, and my GPS was telling me that was about 502 feet elevation. And so I went over to the south side of the river at the other location where the bridge might come from, which is exit 28. And it's exactly about 1.05 miles from that exit, point to point, up on Switzer Hill. So going up an elevation of 500 feet, I can't imagine what the girders would look like, okay, to put a bridge from that point over to Switzer Hill, from the thruway to Switzer Hill. I received numerous calls from people that they don't want this bridge. And I looked in to just see what the cost was going to be of the Tappan Zee, and it's $4 billion. Tappan Zee is about 3.5 miles, actually 3.2 miles. So even if this bridge is a third of the distance, and at a cost of probably about $1 billion, I would say, or even if it was an eighth of the cost, $500 million for a bridge, I think we could better spend $400,000. I would rather take the $400,000 and give it to the village of Fort Plain and have them rebuild their homes, rather than come up with a study that somebody has a pipe dream that they're going to build a bridge from the thruway exit going up an elevation of 500 feet up Switzer Hill. We just put money into the railroad bridge, probably over $1 million in the railroad bridge to fix that. And they fixed the bridge that comes over the river to take care of traffic, to basically accommodate the traffic that's going over the river bridge. And now there's a good flow of traffic with the lanes that they put in, the traffic light with the turn signals on it. There seems to be a good flow of traffic going back and forth across the river to the thruway. I haven't seen any traffic jams like I used to see. Of course, the Fun Fair is coming up soon, so we'll see how bad it will be, okay? But not only will this devastate that land up on Switzer Hill, if that's what's gonna be proposed. But think about the economy in these two villages. The economy to the village of Fultonville, I can tell you, will be ruined, especially if the truck stops has to close down. Because the trucks, if they're gonna just go directly to Fulton County, what are they gonna need to stop at the truck stops for? So that's gonna be a heck of an impact to our, not only our businesses, the employees in this area, and sales tax money. So I can't think of probably all the bad points, but that's enough to make me think that this is not a good idea. And besides that, I don't think this bridge I'll ever see in my lifetime. This is something probably to come 30 years down the road. We just put money into the infrastructure of this area to alleviate traffic and to make it flow better, and now we want to change all that and do a $400,000 study. The state doesn't have any other ways to waste money. And I think this is a big waste of money. $400,000. Give it to Fort Plain, let them fix the houses. Do something else with the money. Yeah, $500,000, they're kicking in $400,000, and it's $100,000 that Fulton County's kicking in. What benefit to Montgomery County? I mean, yeah, there's land up in the town of Mohawk that could be used, but it has better access from 38, not from Switzer Hill to go to the top of 38. I just don't see it. I think it's a bad idea, and I voted against it the last time, and it got voted down, and I'm going to vote against it when it comes up at the next meeting. In fact, there was supposed to be some town residents that were going to come, and I'm sure they'll come to the full board meeting to speak. So, again, I oppose this.
I'll set that.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Jeff?
Yeah, I've got a question also is, I can see the definite advantage for the next county, but what advantage is it of for our county? And can you comment on that or at all?
My thoughts are, there's potential advantages for Montgomery County, if that land was allowed to be developed up and potentially the town of Mohawk. The issue as it stands right now is that the village of Fondon or the village of Fultonville has the public infrastructure capacity to do any kind of commercial or industrial development. So that infrastructure as far as water and sewer would have to come from Fulton County. So there has to be some type of agreement with Fulton County that would authorize the use of their water and sewer to be utilized in our county for us to gain any type of development in the town of Mohawk today.
And what about the economic impact to the village of Fultonville? How will that be very adverse?
I mean, it's really hard to tell. You would anticipate that a study such as this would probably look into that and take that into account. I mean, that's awful hard for us to judge because we have no idea if there's going to potentially be truck stops that are developed in Fulton County. I would anticipate that these are well-established truck stops here, especially the one when you get right off the thruway. I mean, you see how well-established that is. Not much truck there constantly throughout the day now. I wouldn't anticipate that changing that much. As far as future development in our county because of this, we would have to rely on Fulton County with their infrastructure.
Tom?
Would that study really, I mean, is the study for that to find out what the impacts are as much as building this thing? Or is that part of it?
I haven't actually seen the scope of what the study's supposed to entail. It's obviously supposed to look for the best route. And
Well,
where
that's what I thought the study
where that
was.
route may be. But, I mean, if you guys ever approved any type of resolution such as this, I mean, for Montgomery County standpoint, you would want an economic impact analysis done as part of this study. Absolutely.
Can we do that? I mean, can we dictate that?
Sure you can. Definitely. Automatic. That's
We're
automatic.
not paying for this.
Oh, they have to do that study.
I mean, we're not not contributing any part of that 100,000, we dictate. I know we're partners somewhat, but we really dictate with that.
How's that, Tom? Yeah?
Well, to give you a little bit of history as to why you have this in front of you, Chairman Jenner approached me and asked if we would bring this up again for no more reason than to try to create a regional cooperation between Fulton and Montgomery counties. As you see, the share to Montgomery County is zero. And I was very clear about that. That there was no desire for the Montgomery County Board of Supervisors to contribute any money towards this study. With that said, this study cannot go forward unless Montgomery County signs off on it, because it goes through Montgomery County. This is something that they have requested of me. It's been a desire of them. I understand that there are impacts to Montgomery County, and there could be some financial gain in the future, but there could also be some financial loss, and that's something that we need to realize in this room when we decide which way to go on this. But this you have, you must keep it in mind, is for a regional cooperation between Fulton and Montgomery counties. We haven't always worked well together, and I think we need to get over that. With the cost of government being what it is, cost of doing business in New York State, whatever effort we can make to get to that regional cooperation and partnership, I think we need to work toward. But this is completely up to you. I think it's something that we do need to consider, is forming these alliances wherever we can. Not that this is, as I say, going to have an impact. And you're absolutely right, Supervisor Demelza. This bridge, you won't see it for 25 years, if it's ever built. But it is something that Fulton County has requested, so I'm trying to honor that. Thank you, Chair.
Right.
Yeah, very well. All these words are spoken very well from Montgomery County and Fulton County, but maybe Greg and Ed Patton clarify one thing. When we wanted to get a deal up there, when the mayor of Johnstown squashed it all, it cost Montgomery County, Fulton County, and also Monmouth. You know, it makes me laugh because the onus always comes back to Montgomery County. Why don't we, I mean, we bent over backwards. I remember years ago with Mike Yevely and I went up there to their economic development department and tried to work a deal out. And they just shut us off. And the only time they need us is when they need something like this. I agree with Tom. $400,000 coming out of the state for this is utterly ridiculous. I don't care. I mean, you know, you got taxpayers out there who are striving to hold on to their homes, and they're throwing $400,000 away like it's a toy. I agree with him. Give it to Ford Plain. Let them rebuild and get that all done. You know, they're worrying about putting a bridge. Here, we got one in Amsterdam that's going nowhere. Now we're going to have one going to the sky. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, my problem is with Ron was talking about the $400,000 or $500,000, how you want to look at it. We can't keep up with fixing the roads up now. I mean, ask Paul. He can't even get roads fixed in the county here for, you know, costing $100,000. I mean, we can't seem to get enough money to keep up with the, you know, what we got to fix now. And I understand that one thing that, you know, I have to think hard about this. The one thing I understand is the people in Fonda along Route 38, they have truck traffic, and more truck traffic. We have the same thing on Route 38 for the higher length, the north to south in the county line, because that's the only state road that the Walmart's allowed to use. They can't use 10 or 30, they use Route 38. So I understand the truck traffic. The only thing is, if you take this road, you move it down, what you're doing, you're moving down there, taking it off the thruway, you're just going to bump that road in front of somebody else's houses. So you know, whose house do we want to put it in front of? I guess that's the question. And you got to think about, you know, how much more land do we want to pave over? I mean, you know, if you figure that, if you sit down and take a pencil, it's very easy to do. A road right away, for a type of road like that, you're probably talking 200 or 300 feet wide. That'd be the right of way that they would buy. To all the way to Johnstown, you're probably talking 100, 150 acres you're gonna pave over, or either pave over, or put ditches in, or make roads, or whatever. And, like I say, in far as Pond is concerned, trucks, they don't do business in Pond anyway. There's no place to park if one wanted to. They just drive right through. But all those cars that get off, you'll see a lot of cars in Stewart's, Cumberland Farms, Subway place, them places, they're out-of-state cars, out-of-county cars. They're going on their way up to the lakes in Johnstown, or Sac and Dog and beyond. Those people, if they're gonna get off a, throughway, they're not gonna wind their way over through Pond or stop at a Stewart's. They're gonna just shoot right up to Johnstown. There's a Stewart's up there on both corners up there, so. I really don't see, like I say, and I have sympathy for the people in Pond, don't get me wrong. I understand they'd like to get that truck traffic off of their road, and I guess I couldn't blame them, I guess, but just to spend $500,000. We're probably not gonna see, and like I say, probably not, if you do set a bridge, that would be, 25, 30 years, I think that 400,000 or 500,000, whatever it is there, that could be spent a lot better. There's a lot of people hurting out there that use it, so that's all I can say.
Thanks, Derek. John?
Well, all I want to do is bring your attention to item number C, solid waste.
I figured they're gonna hold this over our head.
No,
this
wait a minute.
regional- this
Supervisor
regional-
Rico, I believe I have the floor, please. And if that's the attitude you're gonna take, I believe you're taking the wrong attitude. They are not holding this over our head. We have options, I believe, to handle our solid waste that don't include Fulton County. But I think it's being short-sighted of us if we take actions that exclude them from our conversation concerning solid waste at this point of our trying to withdraw from MOSA. If we're going to withdraw from MOSA, we're going to need to send our waste somewhere. And by, basically, in my opinion, slamming the door on Fulton County by nixing this resolution, I think we're being short-sighted. There is an impact to us with our solid waste if we decide to get out of MOSA, or what am I saying, if we decide, we already decided that. There is an impact. We have to discover a direction. And the most beneficial direction may be towards Fulton County. It works for them, potentially, and it could potentially work for us. But as I say, I believe we're being short-sighted if we close that door by this action. But that's all I'm going to say. Thank you, Chair.
Hey, John. Tom?
I'm disappointed that conversation was even brought up. Because you shouldn't be mixing apples and oranges. This is one resolution that we may not be in favor of as a county. I'm certainly not in favor of it. But I'm certainly not going to have my arm twisted to say, look, we'll have better relations with Fulton County come next year when we go to negotiate with them for the landfill. It just doesn't make any sense. Because, again, you're mixing apples and oranges. This is a one resolution that it's not going to even take any traffic away from Fulton County. It's still going to be going up to Fulton County. It's coming down 30A, it's going up 30A. Traffic is still going there. And we just put all this money into the infrastructure to still make it go there, and go there even more smoothly than it went before. I just think we're wasting our money on a study that is not going to mean anything. I really do. So, when it comes time to negotiate for garbage, that should be a separate issue altogether. So, shouldn't have been mixed with this conversation.
Should be reading about it in the morning.
Yeah, you will. All set.
Thanks, sir. John?
Chair, if you didn't want to mix past injustices that we feel real or perceived with Fulton County, they shouldn't have been bought up in the first place. And that's the whole issue. We have these injustices, as they say, real or perceived, that are historic. They're probably going to continue in the future because we can't get over these attitudes. And as I say, I don't believe that local government can survive in the manner that it's currently run. There are too many things at stake. That this state costs too much to bring a business into. The state costs too much to operate a business in right now. I applaud the businesses that attempt to run in this state because of the atmosphere that we have, of the high taxation for it. But for us, not to try to make some improvement upon that and try to get some municipal agreements that work, that save everybody some money, that lower taxes so that businesses will come into this state. I think we have to start thinking in that direction. Otherwise, we're just going to continue to deteriorate. Our branding study will be just that, a study. It won't take us anywhere because we're not trying to go anywhere. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Chair, make a recommendation,
Yes,
we
ma'am.
move with no, move it to the board with no recommendation.
Wishes of the committee? Want to move it to the full board with no recommendation? Or do you want to vote?
With a recommendation.
Just move it to the full board with no recommendation.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll move it to the full board
With no recommendation.
with no recommendation.
We're all here.
All right, yes. All right, the last item is, on the discussion item is solid waste. Probably like to go into executive session for that.
Need a motion, Chair?
Chair.
Motion? Yes,
If you could, before you start, I see Dennis Eaton is here.
yes.
Could you give him a couple of minutes before we go into executive session to at least
Okay.
give us his thoughts on the direction that he sees?
All right, Dennis, go ahead.
Sure.
Back up, it's gonna be a long night.
Hey, Dennis, you're up.
You know, words of wit and wisdom?
Boy, oh
I
didn't say words.
Well, here's a couple things, all right, for what it's worth. I'll be honest with you, I'm sitting here listening to my county board, supervisors of the county I live in, talk about not being able to keep the buildings, fix the roads, on and on and on. And you folks want to take on another responsibility of managing however you do these transfer stations, the landfills, of permitting, the reporting, the whole 9 yards. I wish you well. I really do, because I've been doing it 25 years. If you don't do it well, it's going to cost you way more than what you think it's going to. So that's, for what it's worth, take it from there. I think you're digging yourself a hole. But I'm not going to stand in the way. So if there's questions, I'm always available. I think everybody on the planet has my cell phone number. Feel free to call, chase me down. I use stores. I use guys.
Thanks for sharing your wisdom.
Can I have a question?
Yes, go ahead, Bob.
Dennis, what do you foresee the cost of disposing of waste to go down in the future?
I think from a MOSA perspective, we're looking at going down next year. I only anticipate it continuing down for the next several years. There's some pretty good options on the table for us. We have a very good handle on operations. I mean, look, you guys are government, we're government. We've lowered our rates 35% in 4 or 5 years. Look around, show me another taxing agency or governmental agency that's done that. And we have the opportunity to go further. I understand the politics between all the counties. I listen to, Chairman Thayer talk about the battles between the counties. You have the same thing going on down south, Again, I wish you well.
Yeah. What did you mean by digging yourself a hole?
I'm not talking about no building land, Bill.
No, I'm just,
No, I think, I think it takes the right people, and I'm not the only one, trust me. There's a lot of people.
To do what?
Whether it's running the transfer stations, dealing with the DEC, dealing with private vendors, whatever it may be, to make sure that your operations are efficient. Again, whether it's a private vendor, whether it's a public entity, however, I think it takes negotiating skills to put together the best deal, or whether it's disposal, whether it's transportation, whether it's maintenance, whatever it may be. I think it takes a delicate touch to deal with the DEC, the Department of Labor, and on and on and on, if all if they don't have to. There's a lot of responsibilities that you folks will pick up, once you assume responsibility for ownership of these facilities.
then the question is asked. Otsego County is there a possibility that Otsego County is going to stay in?
I would give them the same speech.
Okay. And so if they're not going to stay in, what's left? A two-county authority between,
I think it goes back to what John's talking about is when everybody works together, you can make things happen. When they don't, you create challenges that don't exist.
if we're only left with Schoharie County, so we have a two-county authority. Question, is it still viable?
I think if you get over the politics, probably.
What would our share of we'd be 2/3 of the waste, approximately, right?
Correct.
We'd be 50% partners in it. Because they have, because there's a two-county authority created once Otsego
Yep,
County
I
leaves.
understand that completely.
So we're becoming equal partners, but we're 2/3 of the responsibility. It's like breaking up now with us saying that we're 42, Otsego County's 40, and they're 18.
I guess another way to look at it is come May 1st of next year, Montgomery County, Otsego, Schoharie, they have no responsibilities to the authority other than to put people on board and to deal with the post-closure costs and landfills. That's it.
Post-closure, I see as the future liability.
That will never go away.
That will never go away.
Realistically, those landfills will be there.
How that's handled is a concern by a number of us in here.
You should be. It should be. I mean, I deal with those landfills every day. I personally have 25 years' experience with those landfills. There are other entities that would love to manage those landfills for you for a fee. You know. I mean, I come relatively cheap compared to consulting firms. Their job.
The thing is that the good job is from what we see, is because basically two things happen. One is we hired a waste coordinator by the name of Dennis Heaton down there. And number two, we were able to change the voting block from 5-3 against us to 5-3, and we're in the majority. It can't change. We can't go in the future hoping that you stay there forever, all right?
Ever?
Forever.
Oh, boy.
You know what I mean? And look out for our best interest. So we have to have these discussions
Without a doubt.
on what to do. And obviously, your plan is an option I haven't heard your plan.
Yeah, well, I guess the fear I have is the guy running also is a county resident, is come May 1st, you don't have any responsibility to most of it. You don't have any responsibility to solid waste, nothing, other than put people on the board, whatever the board may be, and the post-closure costs, which, quite honestly, right now, we pick up in our tip fee, and we offset that.
But the only options that are available to us at this point, it seems, is one of two things.
So,
You know, basically one thing.
so,
So if you come up with another option that we haven't heard yet, then
I think it goes back to what John's talking about. You need to work with all the entities involved. And that's a challenge, there's no doubt. Trying to be married for a bunch of years, anybody's married a bunch of years, you understand that. You know?
Exclusion, John.
I know more than anybody in this room. With all due respect, Dennis, Fulton County wouldn't consider taking our solid waste unless they work for Fulton County as well. They have to be getting something out of this. They're not just gonna jump in and do it because we passed this transportation bill, you know what I mean? For anybody who thinks that that's the case, I think they're entirely wrong.
I guess I would just throw this out. I think there's lots of opportunities for disposal options.
Fulton County certainly is a viable one.
Without a doubt. I think there's them and there's a number of others, you know, that all can put you in a very good position. So,
To put you on the spot, the RFPs that you just went out for your transportation and your disposal, are they transferable
yes,
to the counties?
to our successors and assignments.
I mean, we heard a presentation, and if you were here,
I don't know what the presentation was.
by the consultants that were hired. I think you were here.
no, that was.
No, I wasn't there for Mike, but I've spoken to Mike a number of times, I understand it.
So the options that were given to us weren't something that I don't think that we wanted to jump, that we wanted to stay into. So
I think, again, you know, it's county board.
it seems like we can't talk and open. It seems like we have to, we talk in little sound bites and then we're missing what the real purpose is here. But I really didn't understand what you meant by before you dig a hole. And I assumed that digging a hole was the distribution of the assets.
No, I think honestly, I think what'll happen is, personal opinion, I think your operations will get sloppy. I think
You're thinking if the county takes over operations?
Yep.
That's exactly what I thought you were talking about, but.
I think your operations will get sloppy, I think your costs will go up, I think you'll miss opportunities.
Okay, we go back to the distribution of the assets. You have a problem with the distribution of the assets?
Look, that's what it is. You know.
Okay, so then the question is the next phase, is what happens once we get those assets?
Well, you might want to think about that before you get the assets.
Very good point. They could go along in parallel tracks. I don't think time is on our side.
Less than a year.
You know what I mean? I don't think we can think about one, then think about the other.
Less than a year.
I asked for a plan 5 years ago, so kind of late to be talking about the plan.
Well, that was the plan, that was the solid waste management plan, and we still need that, even with the distribution of the assets. So that didn't go away, we still need that.
You got a solid waste management plan, you just need a plan to hit the ground.
Oh, yeah.
And if we give the keys to you guys, when, ladies, and if we give the keys to you, what are you gonna do that morning?
No, those are the things that we need to discuss, and we haven't discussed them.
That's asking a lot of the new legislatures to solve that problem when they first come into office, you know.
Well, you need to start discussing it a lot sooner than that, because if you're gonna take over operations, you've got budget considerations you need. You have to have appropriations lines, you gotta have revenue lines. What's the funding mechanism gonna be for your post-closure
Why
costs?
do we have to have appropriate, we don't have them in the county?
If you take
Just
over
use fund balance.
operations.
Just use fund
There's
balance.
fund balance, there you go. That answers it all. Sorry,
We
I
could take over
spoke up.
transfer stations and lease them out to contractors.
You could.
I'm done, sure.
All right, but our question gets to be is that we have a post-closure agreement that requires an annual contribution. All right, so the thing is, if we don't control, and I don't mean to control the waste as if we have flow control, but if we don't have a way of monitoring the waste, that's how we're dealing with the future post-closure agreement.
Well, right now, you're paying for post-closure through the tip fee that we charge.
Okay, once the assets come, once we have the assets,
How do you make that payment?
how do you make that payment? And how do you control everyone in the county going to that transfer station without the city of Amsterdam saying, I'm gonna go to wherever, you know, in St. John's said, well, I'll go that way. And then we have no way of monitoring that
Well, just-
post-closure agreement.
Just to put in perspective, just so everybody knows, that post-closure agreement, the average cost that we take out of our tip fee from Montgomery County's portion is about $175,000 a year. That gets charged in the tip fee, doesn't come out of the county funds, doesn't come out of your fund balance, doesn't come out of, we charge that, and it comes through tip fee, about $175,000 a year for Montgomery County's portion. If that's not being charged on the tip fee, you folks are obligated to take that out of the fund balance. You know?
But if Otsego County gets out, that's gonna change, is it not? Because they're paying a portion of it now.
No, they're paying, that's Montgomery County's portion. Otsego County also pays about $175,000 a year. Schoharie is about 80 or 90. And just so everybody understands what those costs are, the biggest share is the leachate processing and hauling that we manage from the landfills. There's almost 7 million gallons a year that we pump off of there, you know, along with the water testing and gas testing and so forth. So, and realistically, that will never ever go away, at least not in our lifetime.
But we still have to hire consultants for
We don't.
that. No, we do.
You do. Well, or you have to do something,
Well,
whatever it is you choose, but somehow,
here's the
some way.
problem I have. All the landfills are in Montgomery County. No, but I'm saying is, all this leachate, it's still our problem. You get all this stuff coming out, the gases and that, most is not gonna take care of that at all.
It's most of his assets.
Unless you
It's
hire
most of
us
his
to do it.
assets.
Right now, they're Moses assets. We take care of the post-closure agreement says the counties each
So you
pay.
still have to maintain it.
Well, put in perspective, if we're not here,
Somebody has to take care of it.
welcome to the
Well,
leachate
that's what I'm
processing
saying.
world.
Dennis, this is where we're in a.
No, this is, I mean, the reality is, what we do, all the responsibilities that we take over, that really you guys don't see. You know, I mean, we deal with the DEC and the DEC was in one of my facilities just the other day we dealt with. Department of Labor was there. You know, we deal with the billing of the customers and, you know, the payments from the customers and the vendors and the repair of the equipment and facilities, on and on, you know. You folks don't ever see that. Not a stitch. If you decide that this is where you're going, whether you give it to a private vendor, however you do it, you become responsible. You know, I mean, in essence, what you're doing is you're deciding to take on another responsibility in county government.
But Dennis, aren't those assets set aside over and above anything else? For the post-closure and the post-closure, aren't those assets set aside?
No, there's $1 million that MOSA gave to the counties
Okay.
to put aside, and Sean's got it, Sean managed that money. That's for an emergency situation. For instance, say the landfill in Route 5S, we have horrendous rains, it slides down to 5S. That's what that money's for, okay, for some catastrophic event. For the day-to-day routine landfill maintenance, that comes out of our tip fee. Okay, and if that money doesn't come out of our tip fee, the counties are responsible for those funds.
Okay, well, the overage.
You're not splitting it with 2 other counties any longer, it would all be on one.
Well, no, it's still, all 3 counties are still responsible.
No, after you divest.
Even after the divest, all 3 counties are still responsible for their portion. Okay, Montgomery County is responsible for 42%, 40/18. Okay. Now, the one thing you're not responsible for come May 1st of next year.
Not for the leachate hauling and stuff, those expenses.
No, all 3 counties are responsible for.
Yeah, that's state.
Right, what you're not responsible for come May 1st of 2014, there's no more gap. There's no more guaranteed annual tonnage obligation, there's no more safety net for MOSA either. However, that doesn't seem to be a significant issue for us. We seem to be financially secure. You know, so either jump and run on your own, or find a way to work together. Either way has its own set of headings.
You know, I thought when they started this was a big mess. And guess what? It hasn't changed.
Yep.
I think the mess is gonna be there for next 27
40 years.
plus years, and it's not gonna go away.
I will probably take a beating from this, I hope not from Bob, but the responsibility here for whatever happened to most in the past, or what happens to most in the future, is really board responsibility. I mean, yes, you hired me, and knock on wood, I have a very, very good staff. They're great people, they do a great job. But if somebody doesn't make sure I do my job, it's the board's responsibility. You end up.
But remember, you had a predecessor.
You know what? There's a board responsibility to deal with
But
those
we
issues.
also were 5-3.
I did, I had it a million times to deal with. The last guy,
Right? And the votes were 5-3 against us.
all the time.
I think that all of that is history at this point. I think we need to look where we are right now. I mean, I have some bitter thoughts about that too,
Pass them.
but that's in the past.
You can only do what you do today, and again, board responsibilities. My responsibility, staff responsibility.
Okay, so what decision should I be looking out for? What question, what decision am I gonna have to make that I should be thinking twice about?
I guess,
Staying with the two-county authority?
well, I guess finances, you have regulatory responsibilities, the landfills are a biggie, the state's not gonna limit it.
I agree to all that.
So that's there, and I think financial,
I agree to all that.
you know, I guess, look, no, I'll tell you right now, nobody hated most of more than
No, I'm not saying that.
What you should be looking at is, what's your tip fee gonna be, what's the impact to your
Okay, but
region?
the thing is, you can only control those decisions that you can make.
Yep.
I can't control the decision about Otsego County,
Nope.
all right? So they got their legislation, they got to negotiate their way out, and they're out of here. In that legislation, it also requires that there's a two-county authority that's created
Correct.
automatically. There's my decision. Am I going to go into this two-county authority? Or am I going to go out on our own? Which one is the worst of the two evils?
Which one has the least impact to the people who use?
Well, we need to have the information, and it doesn't seem to get to us.
Well, I'll tell you this, from Mosa perspective, we're in the process of working on what Mosa will offer if there's two counties. From a county perspective, I guess it's up to the county to decide how they want to run and manage.
You have to have the information in order to make the decision. You know, when it's given to you that you know, you're in an automatic two-county authority, that happens to be you in a smaller community, and you've got 2/3 of responsibility, they got 1/3, and you've got equal representation. That somehow or another is not fair,
I understand that.
right?
He is sharing information with the consultants that we hired, though, is he not?
Yeah. There's not a thing we hired. You know, Mike came in and talked to me and, you know.
No, but the thing
Spend
is,
some
Bill,
time.
that once you get to that point and you say, I don't want to get into the two-county authority, what are you left with? You're left with the distribution of the assets. Now comes this concern. What are you going to do now that you've got the transfer stations,
How are you gonna move the garbage?
right?
Well, I guess that's a question you folks have to answer.
Yeah, but we don't have the information at this point to make that determination on which direction to go at that point.
Excuse me.
You privatize, do you run it, you know, all these options should be coming forward, so they can make a decision.
From,
Our consultants were helping us reach that decision. That's what we hired him for.
Dennis, did you see any of the the presentation that they gave to us?
no, I read the report though, and again, you know.
How would you respond to that? I mean, I think that's what we're looking for. How would you respond?
How do
to
I
that?
respond?
I mean, I don't think now you can do that, but I'd like to see what you could do when you could give it some thought.
You can,
Would that be reasonable?
yeah.
And I don't think that MOSA was ever, at least not what I was getting anyway, that MOSA was ever not being considered
Well, again,
in this proposal.
that's up to the counties, that's up to our member counties, you know, whatever. That's not really Mosa's choice as far as what, you know, what happens down the road. You know, we, be here as a 3-county, a 2-county, a dissolved authority?
At that presentation was the first time that I had heard that there was a 2-county authority created by that legislation that was passed when Otsego County got out. That's the first time I heard it. So how long had that information been out there?
Part of the original agreement, wasn't it?
No.
Part of the legislation,
No, Otsego County did a very good job at
part of the legislation. And we heard it at
being
that
anybody with a
point.
punch.
First time.
They did indeed, and we fell asleep at the wheel.
Well, whatever, nonetheless,
We the county, I'm not talking
Yeah,
about, we the
that-
county fell asleep.
Yeah, but that's history. I mean, we can't, we
however,
got
I
to
mean,
what we got done.
right, going forward, the legislation, the words in the legislation say, MOSA, Montgomery, Otsego, and Skid area shall execute a plan for Otsego's, assumption of its, so somewhere there has to be a plan for asset distribution, somewhere. The 3 counties in MOSA have to have a plan, all right? That's the law, okay? Nobody leaves until that happens.
That's there, right?
To that end, the MOSA board went out, we had an appraisal done on all the facilities, so that there's an idea of what the facilities are worth. And I think the 3 counties in MOSA need to, probably 3 counties more than MOSA, need to come to terms with asset distribution.
We pay so much money for consultants. We have a plan before us. You see this. This came from our position. They're ahead of us at every jump and every step. They're ahead of us. All we do is we just keep hiring consultants to sit here and,
Well, trust me, they're spending some money down there too.
well, they're getting better results than we are. They've got a proposal that they've sent to us. You know what we're sending? Our lips, nothing. We have lip service. That's all we have.
I'll tell you whatever you want to know.
Does anyone know what Otsego's county plan is? I mean, if they're getting out of most of it, they have a better.
Do they have a better plan, or do they have a plan? There's been discussion of a public-private partnership. Other than that,
I just wonder what the real decision was.
politics. Long, short, they're politics. So,
Okay.
Dennis, would you entertain doing what I asked,
yep,
please?
yes. And I'll see you Thursday. Huh?
See you Thursday.
Thanks. All right. All right. We continue on so we can get this moving here. Our last discussion item is solid waste. And have a motion going to executive session.
Thank you.
Barbara?
Thanks for
Can
coming.
we stay in it, or we got something different?
I don't think that's advice.
Okay, all right.
Who, if anyone, do you want to stay? Sean Barman,
Doug?
Paul Claiborne, Ken, Doug. I think it's unfortunate that supervisors are leaving when you have something like this going on. Just want to say that. I'll second the motion to go into executive session. Aye.
Aye.
Just for the record, my understanding that the executive session would relate to the potential appointment or dismissal of a particular entity and/or the acquisition of real property.
Which letter
Just to
is that?
comply with the statute. That would be F and H.
Okay. I don't want to be.
Does the motion to go into executive session state why we're going into executive session?
Well, that's why I explained.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, so what is the given?
What I just said.
Okay. I thought you read the whole statute.
Pardon me?
I thought you read the whole statute.
My excuse.
Sit down.
There would be a long statue.